All right. Good late morning, almost early afternoon to all of you cool cats and kittens out there.
Okay.
Speaking of kittens, wait, the segue's coming, bro. Speaking of kittens, we are here today to talk about the Dallas Cowboys versus the Carolina Panthers. Week 4 matchup tomorrow, just about 24 hours from now. Figured we go ahead and do a quick game preview before we get too much later into things here. 24 hours, right? Whatever, man. We got plenty of time. Just figured it might be a little bit better time frame than doing it at like 9 o'clock at night, 12 hours before the game or something, 15 hours before the game. And for all of those of you who are concerned out there about my current wardrobe today, I understand that the shirt says Panthers. It's green, not blue. If you can't tell, it's not the Carolina Panthers. It's actually my son's soccer team. So yeah, we got a game coming up shortly after we do this video. We're gonna go take a dub out there from whoever they're playing, and
There you go.
then we're gonna go cook Carolina tomorrow. How are you doing, Tyler?
I'm good. I was wondering where you were going with that cool cats and kittens, but
Yeah,
you brought
that?
it home.
Do you like
You
that?
brought it home.
Solid.
Yeah. Good job. That's a good job. No, I'm feeling good. Feeling great about the Cowboys' chances this weekend. 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock Central. But feeling real good about the matchup this week. You want to talk about some of the rosters updates? Because I thought I was reading that Neil might play, but then he might not play because he's off the list, but he's not ready to play. Go through some of that stuff for me. I'm not caught up on that.
Yeah, so I mean, you got a couple things here. Not anything super major, from last week to the weeks before. Just a quick update when you're talking about like the IR players that have been out for an extended amount of time. Still no Gallup for at least a couple weeks, probably. Still no D-Law for who knows how long. Kelvin Joseph probably a week or two out. Gallimore probably still a couple weeks. Hill is on the PUP list, which means he's got to be out at least 6 weeks. So we won't see him until at least after the bye. And then, of course, you've got Lyle Collins. Still has 3 games left on his suspension. Right. So you got this game and 2 more. Interesting thing there. Did you hear that when they initially appealed, the NFL actually tried to take it down to 2 games? And then they were like, nah, we're going to fight it. And then the arbitrator was like, cool, let's back up to 5.
I did. Yeah.
That I don't know, man. It's like if you were gonna have it be at 2 games, then just put it down to 2 games, right? Like you're gonna punish him extra because he wanted to take it all the way to an arbitrator.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, it's like, man, did you really think you were gonna beat the NFL? Because like, what about the NFL's track record with any of this stuff says they're gonna give any ground? So if they were willing to give you 3 games back, would have been nice to have him back this week, but nonetheless, he will miss this week and sit 2 more after this one. As far as Neil, so I was kind of actually looking at that a little bit today too, because I haven't heard a whole lot about him this week. I would trend to think that he's going to play, but I haven't seen any kind of like official confirmation that he's got those 2 negative tests yet this week. So he tested for positive for COVID right before the game last week. So, Thursday, Friday, something like that is when we got that news as far as him not being able to play in the Monday game, maybe Saturday. So we're right about at the, week to 10-day mark, which is about where they're looking at for the turnaround to get 2 negative tests. So that's just something we'll have to kind of keep an eye on, going forward here today, see if we get that official confirmation that he'll be back out there tomorrow. So we'll just kind of have to play that one by ear and see how that goes there. One more injury note, Donovan Wilson, again, a guy who's missed the last 2 weeks. He'll be out this week again as well. I lost your face, Tyler.
That's all right.
There he is. Found him, guys. Nobody worry. He's back with us. But Donovan Wilson is not. He's not back with us. Not yet. But I do have a question to ask you on that note before we move on too much further here, Ty. Is Jaron Curse going to give that job back to Donovan Wilson?
He certainly has earned some playing time. I think you got to find a way to put him on the field in certain situations. I don't know that Wilson was doing anything to lose his job. Jaron Curse is just showing that he can play.
He's balling.
Right. So as a coaching staff, you just got to find a way to get that guy on the field, keep him having an impact. But it's interesting. We'll see what happens, because I certainly don't want to see him just go to the bench. I don't think the rest of the team does either. He's got a lot of energy out there. And again, he's just always around the ball. He's just always there.
Well, and we've kind of seen them go with like in the preseason with the 3 safety look, where they kind of had Curse or Wilson down as that extra linebacker.
Exactly.
Right. So I think you're right. There may be some packages where they can get both of them in there and still have, Kazee or Hooker be your free, as that third safety, and maybe they just come in as kind of an extra linebacker in pass down situations. Livy not distracting you at all today, huh?
I'm actually mad concerned because she grabbed a permanent marker and then she got real quiet, and then she came in here and gave me a hug. So
is she drawing up game plans on the walls?
We'll see.
Run schemes?
We'll see.
She might be a child prodigy, bro. You might just have to let her be creative.
Yeah. Don't stunt her growth, right?
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so that'll be an interesting thing to watch, to see how, reeling it back in, right? That'll be an interesting thing to watch, to see how much longer Wilson's out, because it does look like he's going to be out this week again as well. If Curse continues to play well, coaching staff's going to have some decisions to make there. One last note that I had on the Cowboys as far as roster updates. This isn't an injury update, just really dope. A guy that we've been talking about since the very first show. Someone that we were looking at as, someone that could be a key piece of this defense, a key piece from a developmental standpoint. And he's got 3 interceptions in the first 3 games. Our guy, Trayvon Diggs, he's a dog. We've talked about him basically every show so far. He got named NFC Defensive Player of the Month this week after the first 3 weeks of the season.
Well deserved.
So, that's really dope to see. Wanted to make sure that we didn't let that go unnoticed or uncalled out. Big props to our guy Trayvon out there doing big things through the first month of the season and getting recognized in a major way. Moving on to Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I just like saying that. Carolina
Clearly.
Panthers. The Carolina Panthers.
There you go.
Moving on to Carolina. Of course, the big one when we're talking about roster players, people out. Christian McCaffrey is on the injured reserve, which means we do not have to deal with that little lightning in a bottle this week.
Hey, J.C. Horn is out too.
Yeah, J.C. Horn.
A lot of the attention's on CMC being out. Horn being out is big for their secondary.
Yeah, and I'm actually a little bit upset about that, because this was going to be another opportunity, just like we had in week 2, for me to talk about the rookie matchup, right? To say, hey, obviously they're on the same side of the ball, so they're not actually going to play against each other. But, how does Horn look versus how does Parsons look? Obviously, we didn't have a chance to draft Horn, but I still would like that discussion. You know me, I'm a draft guy. On that note, I saw a list the other day of the top rookies so far through the first 3 weeks of the season. Micah Parsons is number 2. Guess who number 1 is? Rashawn Slater. Yep, 1 and 2, baby. 1 and 2, baby. So, there's that little nugget of knowledge there. But, yeah, you're right. J.C. Horn being out definitely thins out that secondary, especially with, they did add C.J. Henderson this week after Horn broke his foot. They made a trade with the Jaguars, tight end and a 3rd-round pick or something like that for a guy who's a former top 10 pick. I think Henderson went 9 overall 2 drafts ago. He was the same draft as Jeff Okudah when he went to the Lions early.
Yeah.
A guy that I actually really liked coming out of college, but he really hasn't done much, to start with the Jags. Part of that could just be that the franchise is,
the Jags haven't done much.
Right. The Jags are the Jags. But there's also, there's been some stuff kind of floated out there about maybe some different like mental health related issues and stuff like that with him, where maybe he hasn't been able to get to practices on time, or just having some sort of issues with stuff like that. So that is a guy they added this week. He practiced all week, but it's still his first week with the team. So I don't know that you're going to see a guy like CJ Henderson out there, 40, 50, 60 snaps this week. So I don't think that's going to be a major concern. And I don't know that it would be anyway, honestly. With this quarterback and this wide receiver core that we have, I don't know that CJ Henderson would be a problem anyway.
No.
So, yeah, J.C. Horn definitely makes a big difference there as far as, their back-end defense, and him being out there. The only other notable person that's doubtful is Yetur Gross-Matos, again, a young guy that was drafted just a couple years ago.
Right.
Part of that Carolina pass rush, which we'll get into more here in just a little bit. But yeah, it doesn't look like he's going to play. So that'll be a nice thing for us as well, to kind of have that rotational piece out on the defensive line. Cool. So that is the roster updates.
Yeah.
Now we got to introduce a new segment, because, you weren't here last week to introduce the new segment. We got Trench Talk with Tyler.
That's right.
Take it away, my man. Talk to us about what's going on in the trenches this week.
Yeah, you've got some interesting things to watch with the offensive line, defensive lines. Part of the concern this year through the first couple of games is the interior of the line. Biotish in particular, him getting blown up by, powerful inside defensive linemen. Well, he's got another one this week with Derek Brown. So looking to see how the Cowboys scheme that up. If we give him some more help, make sure that, he's just not left alone, or if he is, that, we're setting up some kind of screen or some kind of action to take advantage of that momentum coming up the field. So that's definitely something to watch. But Hassan Reddick has been kind of a revelation since they put him back on the edge out there in Carolina.
Right.
So he is going to be someone just that, again, he can, he's on a nice pace this year. I think he has a sack and a half in each game to start the season. So he's at like 4.5, 5 sacks.
No, Reddick is a problem.
He's definitely getting home. So this is going to be a game where, especially if Hassan moves around on the line. I haven't watched Carolina a lot to see how they're using him. So you're going to, want to help steal, maybe. And I mean, the Cowboys have done a decent job, except for interior help, I'd say. They've done a decent job with the scheme and the play calling. You think about that Bucs game plan. You think about how you neutralize Joey Bosa to, a very meaningful extent. So it can definitely be done. I'm not worried, but these are things to watch because that's a part of the strength of the Panthers defense. They have they're tied for top pass. The pass rush win rate. So yeah, they're getting off their blocks. They're getting to the quarterback. They're getting pressures. They're getting sacks. And we've played some people that have, had some pressure, but that's where Dak shines, so hopefully that will continue this week. I think it will. But that's a definitely some things to watch. Now, on the flip side, though, the Panthers have the fourth worst pass blocking O-line. That's by Pro
that
Football
offensive
Focus.
line kind of trash.
Yeah, Pro Football Focus has them as a dumpster fire, basically.
They have one good tackle.
Right. And everything else is a problem. And the Cowboys, I think it's 11 or 12. It's somewhere in there, top 12 in team pass rush win rate. So, we're getting there on the quarterback at a decent rate. With this line, how bad they are. Hopefully that's something we take advantage of, because the Panthers, they're using the short passing, right? They're trying to get the ball out of Darnold's hands.
Right.
So if we can just, disguise that coverage a little bit, make them, misidentify the defense a few times and get him off that first read, I think it'll be a long day. They haven't really played a defense that will, punish them in that regard because they're that bad on the O-line. The Jets got some pressure on him, but he was able to make plays. Their defense is a little less on the playmaking in the second and third levels compared to Dallas. So even the Jets, who really aren't there, were giving them some issues in the pass rushing. So I feel good about the Cowboys' chances. The other thing I want to mention about the trenches, the Cowboys are giving up almost 5 yards a rush this year. The reason we're not talking about it is because
nobody's running against them.
Right. The teams have attempted per game 15 rushes. Okay. Now, part of this is Dallas is scoring in a lot of these games.
Sure.
So there's a little bit of pressure to throw, especially last week, right? They had to just completely throw the run out the window.
That's right.
So, there's the question of, is Carolina going to try to run the ball? A lot against, a team that's, to this point been given up, 5 yards a rush. So that's just something to watch there. Are we going to, if they try to run the ball, are we going to be able to, stop that? That can give, I could see that giving some problems to the defense.
I just wonder how much, I wonder how much they will put on Chuba Hubbard's back.
Yeah.
Right. Third or fourth round rookie, got a heavy dosage last week, when CMC went down, but I do hear what you're saying, and I think the most egregious example of not exploiting that run defense came with Los Angeles.
Right? The Chargers, exactly.
Austin Eckler was cooking us, and they just, they let Herbert throw the ball. And I mean, look, don't get me wrong, Herbert was slinging that thing.
Yeah.
But they really didn't exploit that run game to its fullest effect, even though they held the time of possession by a mile. So, no, I do think that that's a legitimate point. I guess, kind of the flip side of that thought process or that discussion for me is, what do they really ask of Chuba Hubbard? How much does he play into the CMC role? Where does he fit? And we saw it last year with Mike Davis, right? Mike Davis obviously was not Christian McCaffrey, but when he filled in for CMC for a few weeks, last year, he was really good. I mean, he was, from, if you're talking about like fantasy football standpoints, he was like a top 5, top 7 running back in fantasy while Christian McCaffrey was out. Yeah. So while I'm not super confident that Chuba Hubbard is going to, go do big things Sunday against us, I did pick him up on my bench for my fantasy lineup.
Yeah, just something to watch. I overall think that our pass rush is going to give them a ton of fits. And they're going to, there may be a little bit of rushing yardage given up, but they're going to turn the ball over. They're going to get off the field
for sure.
On third downs. We'll be good, but it will be interesting to watch because when you talk about indicators of, is this going the wrong way? That's something that I'll be looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. I know what I'm looking at.
But yeah, man, that kind of, goes into the next point there, that is this really going to be like a short passing game? Because we talk about, and, a lot of the contemporary knowledge is that, the short passing is more efficient than the run game in a lot of situations, so talk about that short passing game and why it's critical this week.
Man, and I think it may extend past just the short passing game this week. But it kind of feels like a Dak, Cooper, CeeDee Lamb game to me. It feels like the game plan could be something very similar to what we saw against the Bucs there in week 1. The Bucks, obviously a great run defense, and they bring a lot of heat from a lot of different places. Carolina has a really nice defense. They do. They've been defensively solid. They've been pretty stout over the first few weeks of the season. I haven't played a lot of great teams. Don't get me wrong there, but that defense does look pretty legit when you go back and kind of look at them there. So, but the thing that I think that you're going to see is, we talked about how much they blitz, right? How much they rush. They're top 3 in rush rate this year. I know you talk about how they're, winning a lot of those, rushes, their pass block rate.
They're just getting off the blocks. Yeah.
Right.
Just getting off the blocks.
But we have a quarterback that really doesn't mind getting pressured.
He welcomes it. He identifies it.
He's I heard a stat this week, and I think he was 4th or 5th in the league through the first 3 weeks of the season in release time when he throws. So he's like 2.4 seconds, snap the ball, 2.4, gets rid of that thing. I think you had Tom Brady, and there was a couple other people that were up there. I don't remember the whole list, but he was in that top 5, 4th or 5th in the league when it comes to how quickly he's getting the ball out of his hands.
Yeah.
So some of that is going to be, like I said, the short passing game, the screen game, the slants. But I also think there's going to be some opportunities to take the top off the defense. The Panthers are going to play way more single high safety than we saw from the Eagles last week.
Oh, yeah.
Last week, the Eagles were basically asking us to run it every single time with the 2 deep safety look, right? They really just didn't vary from that for most of the game. Dak took what was in front of him and still cut him up, but really we used the run game to move the ball for a good chunk of that game. I think this week we're going to see that, though. I think we're going to see a lot more of that, kind of that week 1 strategy come back out, where there's going to be those opportunities. If we can just hold the line for a couple seconds, right? Dak's going to have that thing out. So we talked about J.C. Horn being out. We talked about how we're probably not going to see a whole lot of C.J. Henderson. You got Shaq Thompson out there in the linebacking core. That's a really good receiving, pass defender. Good Lord. my brain shorted out for a second. My apologies. But yeah, so you got some guys out there, but I don't know. I really think that defensive line is the strength of that team. And as long as we can shore up and hold against them, maybe this is another nice pass blocking game for Zeke, right?
Helping that's what I was going to say.
On the edge, and even on the interior if need be. So I think we are going to see, and hopefully, Coop's been kind of down for a couple weeks and he's been injured. But I think that this is a game that you could pretty safe to bank on that Coop's going to have a much better game. We're probably going to see a good game from CD. And I think Dak is probably going to go 300 plus yards in this one.
Yeah, a lot of catch and run, and a lot of over the top, because they're going to, pick them apart. I like your callback to the week 1 game plan. A lot of stuff on the edge, screens, just stuff to get you moving horizontally instead of coming up the field, and then taking your shots, of course, when you see that single high safety.
Right.
But yeah. If Zeke can pass protect like he did in week 1, that'll give Dak that time.
Right.
Like I said, I feel good about it. But it'll be a good matchup. It'll be a good matchup.
So we talked about our quarterback. Talk to me about their guy. Is Sam Darnold a good quarterback now? Did he just have to get out of New York?
A lot of
from Adam Gase.
A lot of times you heard that. A lot of times you heard that it's just hard to overcome a dysfunctional organization when you're the quarterback. It's already so hard to be good in the NFL at that level. You're asking Sam Darnold to overcome a lot there. And there were times that he looked good. But the consensus, which isn't bad, right? Because you're talking about a very, very small group of people that no matter where you put them, they're just going to elevate everything to more success. Most guys, even our guy included, right? Dak, you need some competent team building around you. You need some good players. You need some consistency with your coaching staff, your system, no turmoil in your front office and things of that nature. is your coach on the hot seat every week. That's just bad recipes for a rookie quarterback, man. And he had a tough go of it in New York. I never thought he was very, very good, like a transcendent talent, like some people were, mentioning.
Sure.
But Sam Darnold can play. He's athletic. He can make throws. The decision making is a little questionable sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But that's expected out of young quarterbacks. That's what you're trying to grow into.
Well, and I think the one thing that you're trying to do is Sam Darnold has proven in the past that he's uncomfortable under duress.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's where a lot of that, that questionable decision making that you're speaking of comes in, is that he is not like our guy when it comes to how he performs when you get pressure on him.
Correct.
If you let him sit back there and have time, I mean, he'll make his throws, right? He'll get through his progressions, he'll make his reads, and he'll make the throws because he's got a talented arm. But I think that that's really what it's got to come down to is, can you make him uncomfortable? Can we pressure him? Can we get, Gregory coming off the edge? Am I going to get a Randy Gregory sack this week? Because everybody in the world told me I was going to get double-digit sacks out of Gregory.
That's
what everybody told me. So he was going to have 10 plus.
The two lines that we face have pretty decent tackles.
Mm-hmm. And I do think he's got the left tackle is trash. So
this is the week where if Randy Gregory is going to go off, this is going to be the week where he starts going off.
I think he could.
Yeah.
But so let me ask you this: is Parsons the guy that lines up on the other side of him this week? Because I think you're going to have Dorrance Armstrong back from what I've seen. And you've got Chauncey Golston, who's, now been in practice for a couple weeks.
What was that split? Like 70-30, 60-40 in the Eagles game? Yeah.
Something like that. He still played most of his snaps at the edge position. And against the Chargers was entirely at the edge position.
Yeah.
I will say he practiced with the linebackers this week. As far as like the open portion, that the media can see, the last 2 weeks he's practiced with the defensive line. This week he practiced with the linebackers.
I could see him going more 50-50 or playing more linebacker, because if you want to reduce the amount of snaps that Jalen is on the field, Parsons has got to play more linebacker, because Jalen played 86% of the snaps or something like that.
Sure, right. You need Parsons back there, and you need Keanu Neal back.
Right. And I think you see him play a little more at linebacker. If nothing more than he'll still be able to rush the passer, right? You just get to play a little more games with him. He's standing up, which gap he's coming through, where he's at, playing coverage games behind him, and, letting him just from a stand-up position get there. I think he probably plays more snaps at linebacker, but he's still coming at the quarterback at the same rate, if not more. That
would be interesting to see how often they blitz him off ball. And I think he probably will still rotate in some at end.
Yeah.
I just wonder, I heard, I think it was either Jeff Kavanaugh or Brian Broaddus on 105.3 earlier this week. Kind of this school of thought of, again, talking about the Panthers offensive line, the left tackle's garbage, right?
Yeah, it's real bad.
So Randy Gregory's over there. The right tackle is probably the best player on their offensive line. So it's kind of that idea of, okay, do we quote unquote waste Micah on a competent offensive lineman?
Right.
Or do we just throw like a Dorrance Armstrong, Chauncey Golston, Bradley Anai, Osa Odigizua, combination out there at him, mix Parsons in a little bit, but then utilize him off ball, to your point, more in, some of those off ball blitz packages, or even in coverage, right? I mean, he's proven that he can play coverage better than a lot of us.
But the Carolina's guards are real bad. So it's like, if you come
those like mid blitzes.
Yeah. Okay. If you can just get a body inside on somebody, and then just let, Micah go full speed downhill,
right.
Sam Darnold is not that athletic. He is mobile in the sense of like, I'm gonna
Jalen
move around
Hurts
in the
couldn't get away
pocket.
from him.
Right.
There's no way Sam Darnold's getting away from him.
Yeah. So I think turn them loose, right? And a lot of times if you have early success with something like that, you start seeing that attention to Micah lets other people just walk into sacks, right? Darnold's doing everything he can to get away from him, and he walks right into a Randy Gregory, a Dorrance Armstrong, Diggy coming up the middle. So I do like if he's returning to the linebacker position, scheme wise, I got to think they're going to take advantage of, just how bad the interior and left side of that line is. And just, hey, we're going to create a crease and Mike could just get through it. So,
man, it's so funny because at the beginning of the year, I didn't want Micah. I was actually kind of upset that we drafted him, right?
Oh, I remember.
And now I'm sitting here, having this discussion about, which spot he's going to play. And the only thing that I can really think is like, man, how do I get two of him?
Right.
I just want one to play on the line all the time, and I want another one to play linebacker all the time.
I would feel really good if Neal was back.
Sure, putting him on the line.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But yeah, I think for your coverage, like you said, especially for the coverage situations, you may be able to generate that pressure just because of how bad the line is, just some good scheme, a little bit of games on the line, and just Randy Gregory beating his man. Yeah. Then you can let Parsons, really do his thing. That I like I said, I like the idea of what's going to happen with the pass rush, the front seven this week. So I'm excited to watch that.
Cool. So last question defensively, and then we'll move on to Cowboys win lose here in just a moment. Trayvon Diggs, we talked about him just briefly there at the top of the show about his NFC Defensive Player of the Month. Again, kudos, shout out to my mans. We've seen him do a little bit of following so far this year.
Just a little bit, yeah.
He didn't follow a whole lot last week, but the Eagles don't have a true wide receiver one just yet. He's not there yet. He's a rookie, right? And Rager is basically a rookie because he was hurt all last year and it was a COVID season. So they just don't have those guys. But we saw him travel with Keenan Allen in week 2. We saw him travel with Mike Evans in week 1. And if I'm looking at the Carolina Panthers offense, weapon-wise, I mean, look, they got, Darnold, they got Chuba Hubbard. We talked about those guys.
Yeah.
The receiving core, you've got Robbie Anderson.
And DJ Moore.
Right. Robbie Anderson's good for one deep pass a game. He's probably going to get off on you one time. It's usually how it happens. DJ Moore is really all they have, though. And that's not a slight to DJ Moore because that dude is a stud wide receiver. He can run routes. He can play inside. He can play outside. He's quick with his feet. He's a solid football player. So I know for me, I think why not, man? This is what we've seen Diggs do. 2 out of the first 3 weeks of the season when we've had a bona fide number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
And I think DJ Moore is pretty close to that mark if he's not at that mark. So. But what are your thoughts on that, man? We think we're going to see some Diggs following tomorrow afternoon, or are we just going to stick him on a side?
I'd like to see him follow DJ. That, like you mentioned, that's the number 1 option, right? Number 1, probably number 2 option too.
Right, 1, 2, 3, and 3.5.
So Trayvon has shown. Again, one of the more impressive things about Diggs' play this season is you can tell he's preparing, seeing it, and recognizing it on the field and making the play, right? He is making the plays. I know he's studying, right? I know he's, looking at DJ, seeing how, their tendencies, what they like to do in that passing game. Follow him, make the plays. That is how you put the most pressure, right? Because then Darnold, again, just some early success or, just showing that, you have that tight coverage and that recognition, they're going to try to go somewhere else. I don't think they'll have time to get through 2 reads. Okay. So put Diggs on DJ, 85% of the time and, just to, mix up the looks, maybe leave him on the side. one time. But yeah, let them follow him. I think that's the way you keep the pressure on him, because you don't want him, just hey, stay on this side, and then DJ Moore is cooking,
right.
On the other side of the defense or in the slot. So
right, because every time he sees Jordan Lewis or Anthony Brown, they're going to look that direction, right?
Yeah,
and look, if Robbie Anderson gets AB once or twice, whatever, bro. That's
sure.
That's what's going to happen to Anthony Brown.
Well, anyway, so. I think you can. I think if you have Diggs follow DJ, and for a certain or a good amount of the time, you can probably have a safety help over the top on Robbie, just to make sure, because that's his thing, right? Like, you're just gonna tell your corner, like, hey, you got some top help over the top there, just play everything underneath, play him tight. And is he still fast enough to get by the defense and hurt you once or twice? Yeah. Just again, with the Cowboys this year, they're giving up the yards, but they're taking the ball away, or keeping the scores in the low 20s. So let's continue that formula. But I do think it starts with Diggs following DJ.
Absolutely. Cool. So let's roll right into Cowboys win if, Cowboys lose if. And I'll let you start with your Cowboys win if.
The Cowboys win this game if they're able to take advantage of the pressure looks that Carolina throws at them. Dak's been really efficient beating the blitz this year, identifying the pressures correctly. He's been masterful at getting them in the right play. So it's not more complicated than that. He'll just go up there and do what he's been doing this year, take care of business, put the points on the board. And the Panthers offense isn't good enough to keep up. So they're definitely going to take care of business. I mean, I think they'll win, but that's how they're going to do it.
And the Cowboys lose if?
They're going to lose. They're going to lose if they turn the ball over.
Okay.
They've been pretty good with that this year. It's just what two is it 2 picks from Dak?
Yeah, 2 picks and a fumble.
Okay, yeah, the fumble in the end zone. That's right. Yep. But limited on the turnovers. This defense is, again, they've been playing who they're playing, but they've been taking care of business. They have confidence. They want to prove that they're a good defense against a quality opponent. They're going to come out and really test the Cowboys, right?
Sure.
They definitely are going to test that line. They think they can get home and, get some takeaways. If the Cowboys give them the ball and give the Panthers some short fields, some easy scoring opportunities, those points, giving them that extra 7, an extra 10 points or something like that, that'll lose the game quickly.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I'm pretty close on my win-lose if. I'll say the Cowboys win if Dak beats the Panthers pass rush, right? Pretty simple, pretty close to what you were just saying there. And we kind of already talked about that. That's something that Dak has shown to be proficient at. He's comfortable against the blitz. He performs well against the blitz. He gets the ball out quickly. So I think as long as he does what he does, I've already talked about how I could see this being a big Coop and CD game, a big Dak game this week. I think as long as Dak does what he does against pressure and, we can scheme well enough to let him have that 2.4 seconds that it's taking him to get the ball out right now, we're going to be just fine. So I think we win as long as we are able to beat that Panthers pass rush. I think we lose if Sam Darnold has another all-world game against the Cowboys. I'm sure that most of us diehard Cowboy fans remember and look back fondly to a couple years ago against the Jets when Sam Darnold looked like he was an MVP quarterback for a week. Pretty sure that was the same season that they played the Patriots, and he said he was seeing ghosts on the sidelines. So, just to give you a little bit of context of where the Cowboys defense was at that time. So I don't think that's going to happen, obviously, right? We're the top turnover defense in the league through 3 weeks, number 13 when it comes to points per game. Number 26 in yards per game, but the points are what matters, right? You can have as many yards as you want. We're top 15. We're top half of the league right now in points per game allowed. So, obviously the Cowboys have proven to be a much better defense to this point in the season from what they were against that game there. So I think as long as, we don't absolutely just fold and buckle like we did in that game against the greatness of Sam Darnold, then we should be just fine.
I say it sarcastically, bro.
Because I don't think Sam Darnold's that good.
Nah, he's not.
He does look good this year. So, I mean, we'll see if that continues, right? It's 3 weeks. It's a new system. I like Matt Rule as a head coach way better than Adam Gase already. Do you know where Adam Gase is right now, by the way?
No.
He's a high school head coach in Michigan.
Okay.
You know what his record is?
What?
1-3.
Oh, well,
But he was the head coach of the Jets for like 3 years.
That's not newsworthy. And
it's not. It's just funny.
Yeah. Sam, this is just the big difference between putting your players in a position to succeed. Matt Rule is just he's a better coach. He's a better coach. So Sam Darnold looks better because his coach is better.
Well, as long as he doesn't look as good as he looked that game a couple of years ago, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah. I don't think so. This will be the first time that they had a team that on both sides of the ball is going to punish them for their mistakes. So they'll be close, but Cowboys find a way to put it away. It'll be like 31-20, something like that. Okay. Cowboys are still because the Cowboys are gonna.
I think I'm pretty close to you there.
Yeah, they're gonna make sure to find a way to exploit, one of those pressures, a couple of those pressures. They're gonna put a touchdown up every quarter, find a way.
So you got Cowboys 31.
Yeah, I got them consistently scoring touchdown per quarter. They'll find a way to put a field goal on the board too with another drive. 5 scoring drives, 4 touchdowns, 1 field goal.
That was almost exactly what I was gonna say. I'm glad that I changed it, though, because, that would have made for pretty bad broadcasting if I was just like, hey, I also think it's going to be 31-20 tomorrow. So a couple factors, right? Like I said, I'm still pretty close to you. I still have a double-digit win. But, just kind of looking at Vegas odds and everything this week. So the Cowboys, I think, were a 3.5-point favorite when I looked yesterday. And they've got the over-under at the game. I think it's set at 51 points. So they're thinking a score of like 27-24, right? Something like that.
Sure, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Cowboys. So you've got the same point total, right? 51 points, but 31-20. So a little bit bigger disparity there. I'm gonna respect the Panthers defense a little bit more than you, right?
Okay.
Because I do think they have a good defense. So I don't think the Cowboys are gonna put up 31. I think they're gonna put up 27. So I respect them. I respect them 4 points more than you.
Yeah.
But I've got it 27-17 actually. So I'm not convinced in Sam Darnold. I'm not. I don't think they've really played good teams like that yet. They played the Saints, and that was just a really weird game when they just beat them to death all of a sudden. But I just don't think that they've played good teams like that. I don't know that they've had a real test just yet as to where they are, with that offense. No Christian McCaffrey, Chuba Hubbard, the young rookie coming in. Like I said, we know what we saw last year in Matt Rule's system with Mike Davis, but he's still not Christian McCaffrey, right? They don't have a whole lot of weapons on offense. I think if Diggs can follow more and neutralize him the way he did Evans, or hold him to something a little bit less than Keenan Allen, I have a hard time seeing the Panthers get over 20 points in this game. I really
do. They can't block.
Right.
They can't block.
I just don't know. I just don't see it. I think if the Cowboys go in with a good game plan, if Randy Gregory can get home, if Osa can push up the middle and, create some confusion in that pocket, get Sam Darnold uncomfortable, I just have a hard time seeing them go over 20. So, yeah, I've got Cowboys 27-17. So still a 10-point victory there, still a double-digit victory.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a convincing win. I think Dak is going to get whatever he wants. But I do still think that Carolina defense is good, right? So maybe it'll be a little bit tougher. But, I mean,
sure,
not that
But
much.
This is the game where the people say, hey, the Panthers defense, they're good, but they played some bad teams.
Right.
And this is the game that the Cowboys defense finally, people are like, hey, like they are good.
Mm-hmm.
They are good. Because when you have an opponent like this that they're not good at blocking people,
Mm-hmm.
you have to
Mm-hmm.
punish them. I'm, smelling like, I don't know, 3-4 sacks, something like that. A couple passes defended, and
Love
an
that.
interception. It's gonna be a good day. They're gonna be celebrating on the defensive side of the
I
ball.
do. I think it'll be a pretty convincing win. And it'll be a good win against a 3-0 team, right? Say what you want about their opponents, but they are 3-0.
Yeah.
We go into this game 3-1. Look at the schedule ahead. I mean, I think we could be 5-1, 5-2 pretty easily over the next few weeks if we play this right. So
For sure.
Cool. Anything else you got that you want to share with the peeps before we get on out of here? I got a soccer game to go to.
No, that's it, man. I'm just excited to watch the game tomorrow. I think it's gonna be a good entertaining win. So let's get it.
Cool. All right, peeps. Thanks for tuning in now or later. Let us know what you think in the comment box. Like that video, subscribe to the channel, do all the good stuff for the YouTube algorithm. We need it. We praying for it. Let's go, baby. Cowboys coming out with a dub tomorrow. Y'all have a good day. Have a good weekend, everybody.